Okay, hi everybody. It's Tuesday, the 9th, Madison, you're right. And so today this is what our plan is today. Today we're going to critique the type specimen posters, which you've posted a proof of an 11 by 17 poster. It's okay that it's 8.5 by 11, and it's okay that your laptop screen is displaying where you're at. What we want is to make progress here. Next week will be your final poster submission. If you look at the assignment page, you'll see that our due date is Monday the 15th at 11 p.m., which means your final poster needs to be submitted and uploaded before you come to class. Yes, as in Monday night. But when you come to class on Tuesday, you're going to bring in, what size, Leah? You're going to bring in a 24-inch by 36-inch poster. And you can spend a lot of money. I have no idea how much it costs. Maybe you guys do. Like by going to Staples and printing out a poster, because we don't have a poster printer on campus that size. Hello. But what I suggest you do is this. I suggest that you tile print your poster. And I created a link because I haven't tile printed in a really long time. So if you go to the Q&A, there's a link that says how to tile your posters. And there's two ways you could tile your posters. You can do it on campus here by opening your InDesign document. You scroll down to this support page. It's not letting me scroll. There we go. You scroll down to your support page, and I can show you the dialog box. Let me, while we're talking, launch InDesign so it's not so mysterious. The truth is, in all honesty, you know how I am. Look at how slow this is. We're waiting for this window to come up. Let's try it again. There we go. I want InDesign. InDesign. There we go. Okay, we'll launch InDesign and I'll show you the dialog box for it. So there is a dialog box for tiling your posters in Acrobat Professional and in InDesign. And I'll show you the dialog box so it's not scary. When I was in the DAC lab and I was at the teacher station in the office, when I was printing this to show you, it turned out that somebody in a hidden dialog box had selected two-sided printing, which is not what you want, okay? So rather than waste more paper, I figured I'd just show you what tiling is. Tiling is not two-sided, it's one-sided. Your poster is one-sided. And what tiling does, in essence, you can see what I did. You need to be far neater than my little makeshift example, okay? As in, you get your tape, you trim it, you make it beautiful. So what you can see is when you tile something, you can specify how much overlap is in your tile. So let's take a look here. This is super slow. I'm still open. So what happens when you tile is it takes this 2-foot by 3-foot poster and it prints it using 6 sheets of tabloid paper. That's what you're going to have, 6 sheets of tabloid paper for it. And what you do is you carefully, with a razor blade and an X-Acto blade, you will line up your overlap. How I did this very briefly, but you can see how it's going to overlap. And each tile is going to have a white edge, because as you know, when you print something, the ink won't go to the edge of the page. Everybody knows that now, right? Okay. So what happens is, this is really an unfortunate mess. I plan to be more organized for you. But you'll see here that this, let's say, would overlap here as a tile to build a 24-inch by 36-inch poster. You will be responsible to trim it and overlap it so it fits properly. So let me show you so you get the idea a little better than my scraps of paper. So if I open a document, I have a feeling this is just so slow today.
Hello.
Hello, did you guys have a party and not invite us?
We had a class and we had to eat, sorry.
You had a class and you had to eat. Okay. So now you're all filled with energy.
Yes.
Yes.
That's great.
That's good. That's what matters. Okay, so take a look up here, please, and make sure that I get your name on the roll sheet, please. Okay. Okay, let me close this up. Look at how poor this computer is today. That does not look good, does it? All right. What you looking for, John?
Push pins.
Are we out?
I don't know.
Maybe I have some in the office. Okay, so here's my poster. It's 2 feet by 3 feet, right? When you're in InDesign, I'm going to show you the InDesign instructions. Like I said, right here in the Q&A, how to tile your posters through Adobe Acrobat, how to tile your posters through Adobe InDesign. The instructions are pretty clear, and I'm just going to show you InDesign for starters, because once you understand the concept, you're just going to say, oh yeah, I get it. It's really not that confusing. So here's our poster, 24 by 30. When you go, and make sure that one of the things I haven't said, and this is my fault, so forgive me, I'm pretty sure, hopefully, that I told you all to set up a bleed in your document. Is that true? Did I do that? Okay. When you print this, you will want crop marks and you will want your bleed to show. So you have the benefit of all of the perfect alignment possible. So when you go to print in InDesign, from InDesign, you go to print. I'm sorry, it's slow. Can you guys see? Do you need me to turn left lights a little? It's okay? Yes, please. A little. Right. Better? Yeah. Look at this spinning wheel. I'm so sorry. I wish I could magically make this computer perfect. Repeat that again.
A specific bleed.
No, a standard bleed is 1/8 of an inch. And just stick with that. That'll serve you. That'll be fine. Okay, so if you take a look here and you go to setup. So let's go back to general. Let's go to setup, sorry. Let's use paper size tabloid. And then when you go here, under set, and let me think, under, like I said, I don't do this very much. Under printer, let's see what we get. I can follow the instructions. Oh, no, I didn't need to do that. You go to right here, under setup, you go to tile. You see where it says tile? And you check it. And what happens is, we're printing this at 100% scale. We're printing it with tabloid paper. We're going to print it with crop marks. We are going to use our document bleed settings, which shows 1/8 of an inch. And when you go back to setup here, this is really what I want you to understand. You choose your overlap, how much overlap you want for the poster. Right now it's giving it 1.5 inches, which is a lot of overlap, probably not really necessary. Although it doesn't matter. You can't get away from 6 pages of paper, unfortunately. But what you can see is here's your page 1, right? And that's your overlap. So this page overlaps this page. So it's going to be like this. You get that. And same thing here. This overlaps the top and it overlaps the one on the right. This overlaps all 4. This on the bottom overlaps. It's an unfortunate size. You could also do this. Look what would happen, how many pages you'd need if you did it 8.5 by 11. If you did it letter size. Why don't I see letter size? Up a bit more. Thank you. I am foggy today, you can tell. Look at how many pages you need for letter size. What is that? 12. 16. Yeah.
Because the tablet's double.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, so you can see that's what tiling's about. And what's going to make it look attractive is not doing, I'm going to turn the lights back on, is not doing the messy thing I did, right? Don't staple it. what you should be doing is, it's okay if you tape the back side, right? But do not tape the front. Do trim it, don't fold it like I did, right? It's like do as I say, don't do as I did. Don't fold it, trim it. You can be sure to trim it and trim all the way to the bleed. Is everybody clear about all that? So whose poster is this? Anton, is that you?
Yeah.
Okay, so Anton trimmed to the bleed here, right? And Lauren, you knew I was going there. And Lauren trimmed to the bleed. And who's Berkeley? Ellen, okay. Ellen will trim to the bleed, right? Okay, so I don't want white edges around. The fact that these are roughs, okay, but it really makes a difference in presentation when you trim it as it is intended, all right? So is there any questions about tiling for next week and the size you're gonna bring in?
You said submitting it online again, is that what you said, on Monday or something?
You're gonna submit your final one, whatever revisions you have, and your entire process included on
To the same exact little,
so
so
the
probably
same
delete our old one.
exact, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, you can delete the old one and upload it, but if you've made revisions like today, if you go back and you change things around and you say, and you change it, you save your old version, include that in your process because I want to see the revisions. If you want to make notes of what you revised or details about what you changed and why, that would be your narrative or part of your process. I want to know. You're going to want to know. The interesting thing about being an artist when you keep track of your process is you're going to enjoy going back at a later date, looking at your process and remembering why you made the choices you made.
You want us to put where do we put that in the Q&A?
No.
No.
No, I understand your confusion. So in Moodle, so everybody's clear about tiling, yeah? No questions about that. You're going to do it, just make sure to not do what happened to me, which was this. Under printer, I went to show details. Look at how convoluted this is. And I had to go to layout, and I had to go to paper handling. And in paper handling, was it on this one? Paper feed? I don't know. One of these in the DAC lab said two-sided printing. And there's no reason I would think that it would do two-sided printing, which is why I got this big mess here. And it was not reasonable to reprint it for class. But anyway, so just check all your dialog boxes, and I think you'll be fine. Just look through everything pretty carefully. You know from experience that when you go to an Adobe link that walks you through something, it's very explicit for you. So you should be fine. Yeah.
So we have to add the crop marks.
I would add the crop marks because you can align them. The crop marks will help you align things. It'll also tell you where the trim is for your bleed.
But so the final poster, we will see the crop marks on the poster.
No. So the purpose of crop marks, if you're not familiar with it, there's no. See how this works. The purpose of crop marks is you have artwork. Can you see that? And your artwork goes from here to here. In order for that yellow to go to the edge of the paper, you have to print the yellow beyond the edge of your paper. You understand? I mean, beyond the edge of the document size. I don't want to say beyond the paper. So that's called a bleed. You understand that? Okay. And the paper it prints on is much bigger than that. So when you make crop marks, the crop marks do this. The crop marks will show where you trim the document itself out here. And so the crop marks won't show because they're outside of the bleed area right now. And when you trim it, you're going to trim it to the trim, this line. See how it aligns with your crop mark? And that line. So you end up trimming off the crop mark. Does it make sense? Yeah. Okay. That's how you get what looks like the ink going to the edge of the paper, but it doesn't because it can't on any press, on any printer, on any press. So, all right, so I think you'll have no trouble with that. There was another question that before that.
Where do you put the process, the finalized process book?
Where do you put it? Thank you. I knew we were there. Thank you. So, if you're unfamiliar with Moodle, Tika, have you ever had a class and used Moodle?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So under activities, there's the assignment link. And here's the assignment specimen poster. I can see myself, 7 people submitted it, but you will submit it here under the assignment link called type specimen poster. And it will be your entire process. Do you remember what the process is? Your thumbnails, your sketches, your digital progress, your color palettes. I mean, let's look at the assignment and see what your criteria is so you don't give away what would be appropriate points for you, okay? So first off, we talked about the requirements for the poster. It will need to have the typeface. You will need a paragraph about the designer. In your process, you will have that summary about the history of the designer, what was going on at that time in history that the designer created the typeface. So you put a context to the history of it. That will be in your process. That whole thing doesn't necessarily have to be in your poster. Just a little paragraph about the typeface and the designer. You need to have a full alphabet of letters and numbers, uppercase and lowercase. You can display that any way you want. And then you'll have a selection of text, which might be your history, or it might be something, some sassy poem, right? You know, if your font's about, I don't know, I'm looking at the fonts. None of them are very whimsical. They're all pretty classic. You know, maybe Garamond, which is a really classic font, might be some classic poem or something from the Iliad. Does anybody know a quote from the Iliad? No. My daughter and I used to practice one. Don't tempt my wrath, and you may not depart alive. And we used to practice who could be more bold and more threatening in saying that, because it's a lot of fun when you're angry, right? But
So,
yeah.
so do you want us to put another text in it, or you said that? You said that.
Either or.
Yeah.
It could be either or.
No one thing. If you don't have Helvetica, it like just it might inside the have Helvetica, or like I can't.
That's not a problem. Not a
It's so
problem.
close to it.
In other words, simple, different font than the typeface you might be using, but it's okay. Not a problem. So that's the criteria, but in addition to your research, here's your research summary, which I just mentioned. And then as part of what you need, you're going to have in part of your process your Pinterest, the type specimen posters you use for inspiration. You're going to have your sketches, your thumbnails. You're going to have at least 10 sketches. And then you're going to have at least 3 8.5 by 11 revisions, like full-scale revisions. Yeah, that's easiest. Whatever's easier for you. You can capture the page or you can link it. If you don't know how to make an interactive link, does anybody not know how to make an interactive link in InDesign?
I couldn't get it to transfer.
Oh, I'll show you how to do that. I will show you how to do that. Don't let me forget. So you'll have at least 10 thumbnails and at least 3 larger sketches. And I care about this. Like, it's here because I care about it, because it's part of the process. And you should care about it. Hopefully it was inspiring for you and not just a task. Was it inspiring? Yeah? Okay. Your color palette, your Adobe Color Swatch considerations. And then maybe if you remember this poster that we had, oh, Here, what I do? Didn't I change the color? You know, you might simply have taken your color palette and tried it 3 different ways as part of your process. And then if you had a layout that varied 3 different ways and you had 3 different color palettes, you immediately have 9 different posters. Do y'all get the math? You had 3 versions of your poster. You had 3 versions of a color palette. What the heck? Let me try all these variations, right? All right. And you will submit to me a PDF. You'll upload it in Moodle in the assignment link, a PDF of your entire process and your full-size poster, okay? And then you'll come in on Tuesday, already going to sleep, having uploaded your poster the night before, and you'll come in on Tuesday with a tile printout. And I have a feeling the tile printout's going to take you guys more time than you anticipate, because it certainly took me more time than I anticipated. So I wouldn't do it Tuesday at 12:30.
Yeah, so in theory, wouldn't you want to do it Thursday because you have to cut it out and tape it together, and it's a 4-day weekend?
Yeah. Oh, and it's a 4-day weekend. Yeah. And you want to go have like a really good Monday and Valentine's Day, right? So in theory, you're right, be done on Thursday. And then you have like a 4-day weekend and no sweat.
It's printed in CM.
CMYK. You don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
It's not something you're going to have to adjust.
Oh.
The way you've built it, you've probably built it using CMYK. These printers like CMYK, but a little secret is they'll still print your RGB. They might make your color weird, but I'm super impressed that you knew to ask, and I'm super impressed that you know the difference. So CMYK rocks, okay, when it comes to printing. That's really what you want. So I'm glad you asked. Thank you. Anything else with that? Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is critique the posters together for the purpose of seeing what works, what might not work, what we might see as stronger. And then I want to talk a little bit more about your book. Do you have your 2 pages that you showed me the other day?
I have them on my laptop.
You do?
I hold them.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to do it right now, but yes. Yeah. I want to talk about the book because next week, besides bringing your poster in, you're going to submit a proposal for what your book is about. Okay? All right, we'll talk about that more specifically. But now I'm just going to pause this and we're all going to get up out of our chairs and energize ourselves.
Hyperlink was the first one.
Hyperlink. So when we are in InDesign, we're going to learn how to create a hyperlink. We're going to power through things really quickly for you guys. Hyperlink, what else?
So we'll to put it on the PDF because I made one for my
Okay.
thing.
All right. So
Hyperlink in design.
yeah, you can do that. Yes, you can. So everybody, hang tight. You with me? All right. So if you're in InDesign, InDesign has a lot of workspaces you're probably familiar with. So, I'm so sorry. I'd get mad at you guys for that. So InDesign has a lot of workspaces. The workspace you'd want to work in for hyperlinks so it's easy for you would be interactive for PDF. Okay? And if I zoom in here to the type, let's say this here, let me zoom larger. All right. And let's assume this line of type here, there. We want to make a hyperlink, all right, to your Pinterest page is really what we're talking about. You can do it in InDesign by just going here to hyperlink. And if I'm in the interactive workspace, so it's a choice. If not, I could go to Window, Interactive, and Hyperlink. And it pulls up this little box. And I can type a website and put it in there. And now it's a hyperlink. Okay? And when I save my document, I just save it normally. But when I PDF my document, I go to Adobe PDF preset, and I can do 2 things, 2 ways to go about this. I'm going to do smallest size just because it's me. We'll do, we'll call it hyper. And we'll go to save. And all you have to pay attention to right here is you click hyperlink and it'll export it with your hyperlink.
I did that on mine and I couldn't open the hyperlink.
Well, let's give it a shot. Let's see if I'm wrong. Yeah, John.
Be careful with these things. Once the document leaves your hands or your computer and others get a hold of it, it may not work.
It may not work
That's
because
why they
it's,
click on the link and nothing happens because somebody uploaded it to Dropbox, which doesn't recognize the hyperlink or
right.
something like that.
which takes away from it. Yeah.
That's true also of print documents. I got the embarrassing revelation that you can make a PDF for print and it won't print. If it is opened in a browser and the browser like Chrome displays it to a file print,
Yeah.
they get all kinds of gibberish.
Oh. Yeah, I guess the best thing to do is to test it, but let me just make this bigger so you can see it. So you can see, oops, come back. It behaves like a hyperlink and you click on it and you have to get permission, but it works that way. So hopefully I typed in the right address. And it's opening in Safari. There. We'll see. There's another way to do it. Looks like it's going to work.
So Dropbox doesn't recognize it.
Well, what happens is you put it in Dropbox, and if you view the PDF, I think what John's saying,
Is it
if
just-
you view the PDF and it's in the browser in Dropbox, it won't behave properly that way.
Oh, it may not.
It may not, and that might be the problem. That might have been the problem.
So if you download it, does it
If you
work
download it, it should work
from
fine.
Dropbox side?
Right, it should work.
Not necessarily, it depends on what it seems, you can't control what people do with it.
Well, yeah.
They may not have Adobe Reader, so they open it in Joe's Adobe display and
Right.
it doesn't work.
Right. The other way to do this is to make this hyperlink, and from InDesign, rather than export it checking hyperlink, you could go to export, and you, instead of PDF for print, you export PDF interactive. You could also do that. That's another option. Okay. And if you export PDF for interactive, it'll give you more interactive features than, for example, just that checking the hyperlink box. But that's it. What else did we have?
There was opacity versus.
Okay, so opacity versus tint is very simply this. So right now I'm going to type the letter T, and I'm going to make it big. Not big enough, right? There. So here's the letter T. Oh, and what I just did is I went to Object, Fitting, Fit Frame to Content, because that way I can now take my many lines of type. I'm duplicating it by holding my Option key down. So I could select, and let me put this one way down here. So I could hold my Shift key down, select this type, and go to Window, Object Layout, Align. So who had the lines of type separate? Okay. So here, make sure you're showing options, because it won't show otherwise and you'll get frustrated. So go to Show Options. And then with these selected, you go to Distribute Spacing, Vertical Spacing, and you align to, and your choice is to align to the selection or the page or the margin. In this case, we want to align to the selection. And if I distribute spacing, now my T's are equally spaced, which is like magic. It used to be so painful to do that. That's magic. So I use that a lot. Now the other thing is the difference here of this T. If I change the transparency of this T, I can go to Window, Effects, and I can change my opacity right here. The T becomes see-through and transparent, and you can see what's showing through behind it. That's changing the transparency. So that's a 30% transparent T. if I take this T and I change the color from black and I change the color to a 30% tint, you can see that the T is a 30% gray, but you can't see what's coming through behind it. That's the difference between transparency and tint. Okay. What else I have? Text wrap. Love text wrap. Okay. Text wrap is just such a beautiful thing. So right here is my text block. Okay. There we go. All right. And right here I have this letter O. All right. And I think it's not a vector. Let's see if it is. No, it is a vector. So you can see it's a vector by the outline vector. Everybody can see that? So this text box is in front of the letter O, which is a vector. If I activate my letter O, the vector file, and I go to Window Text Wrap, I can then designate what is highlighted, that all type wraps around that shape. So right here is no text wrap. Here is wrapping around the bounding box of the O. Here is wrapping around the shape of the O and follows the curve. And if I want to offset how far the text wraps, whether it touches the edge or not, I can increase, let's call it the outset of it, and you can see that my text wrap is now whatever increment away from the shape. Yeah.
Does it have to be a vector?
No, it doesn't have to be a vector. Text wrap is magic. Let me just download a graphic. So here's, that's too big. Oh, these are huge apples. Oh, well. All right, so I'm going to steal this image and put it on the desktop. Okay. Yes, sir.
So it's just a random question about stealing.
Yeah, okay. I know all about that. What do you want to know?
If I wanted to, say if I took that picture of an apple, but I made like a vector out of it, would that be still considered stealing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it would. However, I have my little personal workaround, to tell you the truth. I actually teach as an exercise in one of my classes because I find it's hard for us to know how to draw an apple, for example. So I will take a photograph of something, lock it down in Illustrator, and then use a vector and by hand create a vector graphic from it. Well, now you're creating basically an illustration based on a photograph. And then you're probably going to customize it and change the color and add stuff to it because the apple's boring and so forth. If you press the button and go live trace or image trace, you know what that is? That's stealing. Okay? So there's my differentiation for it. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Is that everything you want to know about stealing? But we're afraid to ask? Okay, so here we go. So here's, so I'm going to make a text box. I'm going to fill my text box with placeholder text. There we go. I'm going to click off of it. I'm going to hit Command D, File Place, to place this apple we just stole. Right there. My cursor is going to load with the graphic, and I'm going to click, oops, so big, and I'm going to click and have it bleed off the edge of the page, okay? And I'm going to go to Object, Arrange, and send my apple to the back. All right, so now here's my text box next to my apple. Let's make it really, let's make it bigger so you guys can see it. There we go. All right, so, oh, that's some horrible font, isn't it? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to take my apple, which is a photograph. It's a raster image and not a vector, which was your question. And with the apple active, I'm going to go to Window Text Wrap, pull up my Text Wrap panel, and I want to go right to the shape of the apple and the leaves and the stem, right? But remember, it's a raster image, so all the white background is not see-through, it's not transparent, it's white pixels. But InDesign being, where are you, Guillermo? InDesign being wonderful InDesign, I'm going to go to my text wrap to wrap around the shape right here, and I click on it, and it's wrapping again around the bounding box. But in InDesign, you can go to contour options and detect the edges, and it finds the pixels that aren't white, basically. And again, I can increase the outset around it. The disadvantage of this here is this, because that paragraph is so wide, it goes on, it shows, you know, it's wrapping on the other side of the stem. So what I have to do, my choices are to take my text box and make it not go beyond the stem, right? Or I can, what happens is what text wrap does is it takes the shape of the graphic and it basically creates a vector around it that it's wrapping on, what it identifies. So I could grab one of these little vector points and create chaos here. You see what I'm doing? To get, to make those things behave and get out of the way. It's much easier, obviously, for me to just reduce the size of my box, but this is more fun to show you. So there you go, right? So you see what I did? All right. So text wrap is really lovely. It's a really nice way to create an interesting layout.
You would do the same if it was just a bigger letter.
If it was a letter, oh, so now we're with Lily? Is it who's Venice? Okay. Say your name again. Sure. Okay. So let's pretend we have Venice here. And we have your uppercase F. I don't think Venice is on this computer. No, not even. So I don't know that we can make this letter big enough. I don't know what happened to our letter here. There. Okay. It's horrible. Did I distort it? Oh, I did. And who was I talking about optical kerning and who did the Caslon Pro? So was it Caslon Pro? So optical kerning, here's metric kerning. This is really important to know, Brian. Optical kerning is right here, where you can change the spacing between your letters, how it visually looks best, okay? It looks to me that you may have tracked your type here by increasing the space between each letter, maybe. Okay, so here's our F, and I'm going to turn it to a vector just so I can scale it larger. I can create outlines for it and scale it larger. And there's one F. And right here, I'm going to hold my Option key down so I could duplicate it and flop it. And then it's way over here now. And I'm going to flop it upside down that way and bring it down here, right? So the question was, oh, it's kind of fun. So how do we text wrap around here? We can create a text box here. We can fill it with placeholder text. And again, I can take the F. I can go to text wrap, which is Command Option W. I can wrap it around the shape of the F. Follow that? And create the outset. And now you've got text that's sitting inside that shape. It's kind of cool.
Does it have to be the same layer?
No, does it have to be the same layer? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think it does, no.
I don't.
You know, I think it's just all text.
Right. It might be all text. So right now, it's on a different layer.
How does it know which text you want it to be?
Whatever text is in the way of the wrap.
And then can't you select, like, say you just wanted that text to wrap around the F, can't you select both of them and say text wrap?
I didn't understand the question.
Like, say there's another text box that you want over the big F, so you don't want it to follow? Oh no, you just go in the object and say like don't follow text.
Oh, so here, this took me about a year to learn where it was located. I will tell you this.
Command B, right?
What's that? Yes,
B.
yes. Didn't I tell you that once before?
Yeah.
I used to work in a software called Quark, which was very easy to locate this. So if I don't want text wrap to occur to this text box, I can't selectively turn it on and off portions of the F. But I can take my text box, go to Object, Text Frame Options, Command B, and there's this little box that nobody'd find called Ignore Text Wrap. And when I ignore text wrap, that text box will now, and I preview it, will now ignore the text wrap. And what happens is, I can't tell you how long this took me to find. And what happens is if you have a photograph, for example, and you put a caption below the photograph, I did this for years, and I couldn't understand why I'd type in the box and the type wouldn't show up, and I'd type more in the box and the type wouldn't show up. And it's because text wrap was applied and I forgot and I didn't know how to change it. So it was very painful for me. What else we got?
Grids.
Grids. Okay. Grids are valuable, and I'm not sure that I understood the problem, but grids are really handy to work with because it helps create structure. And so when you break a grid, you know you're choosing to go outside of the box, so to speak. So when you create a document, this is our 24-inch poster. You can create margins as large as you want. And if you break the chain link, it means that you're going to break all settings being the same. So if I make margins that are 4 inches, oddly enough, the page is so huge. The page is so huge that that still gives me a ton of real estate to work with. If I want to add a grid here, I can create margins and columns, which is probably the fastest way, where all I really have to do is create more columns and larger gutters. And with a poster this big, your gutter probably should be at least 1/2 inch, if not more. And the thing about grids is, just because I drew a grid here, right here, and actually let me fill that with placeholder text. There. I know you can't see that very well, but there you go. But it doesn't mean that you can't do this and have a 2-column setup, or let's see. So the interesting thing about working with grids is it creates order to a page. For example, you know, you might decide that you want your text to copy, paste, paste. Grids just help you create order out of chaos. And when you have, you know, when you work with positive, negative space and having grids, it helps give you structure to things, I think. And so I wasn't sure, somebody said that your margins didn't work, or you extended beyond the margin. I forgot who
I
said
think I
that.
was just not doing it right.
Is this what you got, or you didn't get
Yeah,
this?
I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be
Oh,
You can set it to be.
you can override it. You can do whatever you want. You can also, in InDesign, create guides like this, where you could create rows and columns. So we can remove our existing guides. We can leave them fitting our guides to our margins, which were, I don't know, 4 inches, I think. I can have 4 rows. Let's do preview. And I can have 4 rows and 1/2 inch gutters and 4 columns and 1/2 inch gutters. And you could create a whole document of grids to fill it up. And there you go. Oh, I should have hit remove guides, but you got the idea. Yeah. Is that okay? Did I miss anything? No. Okay. Okay. So 2 more minutes and then we'll leave. Kyler's going to walk around the room with his laptop lid open so all of you can see his concept of his book. That's it. It's show and tell. Just walk around so they can see your screen. So I'm going to talk for you. Talk for you. Your
So,
concept is.
My concept is that I'm going to be going on hikes. One of my favorite things to do. And find different materials to make type out of. Here, be making type out of anything that I find that I like and create words using the actual material. I'm trying to create a word that is similar to the type of material I'm using, like if I did rocks, create a word rigid, something along those lines. I'm also going to be doing a picture that I'm going to hand sketch and redraw, and I haven't decided whether I'm going to do a Photoshop or Illustrator image and render it that way, or if I'm going to keep with the sketch yet. I haven't quite decided on that. But I want to do both the graphic designer's perspective of the typeface and an actual natural view of the typeface.
Okay. So did you all hear that? So the next thing Kyler's going to do before he forgets what he said is he's going to go type that up as a synopsis, as a proposal for what his book is about. And then he's going to take those 2 images and he's going to create a sample few pages of what his concept is. Work with type, what his description might be to support it, however you choose to do it. Start sketching out some page layouts, like page 1 might be my dedication. Page 3, remember only right-hand pages in the beginning. Page 3 might be my title page. Page 5 might be my table of contents if I want one. Page 7 might be my first chapter 1 lush spread, and if there's any type that goes with it. So you're going to sketch that out. So with thumbnails of your concept, sketched out, and a little paragraph, kind of what Kyler just said, so you're describing it, and an example to see if it's actually viable to pull off, right? Because you got to create at least one to make sure it works and it looks good. I'd love for you to have those in on Tuesday, and I'll create actually on the assignment link here, back to typographical publication. You can set this up 2 ways. You can either upload your submission, your first PDF of this little proposal. Why don't you upload your PDF proposal for it here, okay? Don't worry about the Google Drive thing. Just upload a little PDF of your proposal, and then I'll comment on it and let you know if we're good to go and so forth, or if I think you need to think it through a little more.
Is this book made up of, it's not just our assignments, it's...
It is not a process book like you're accustomed to with assignments. This book is a publication that is dealing with the focus of type and typography that comes in maybe non-traditional ways.
Okay, and it's like, but the assignments you're doing, like this one right here, it goes into it though? This
Not a
one?
bit, not even
So
at
I
all.
guess if you went and took pictures of like writing on shoes, and then your whole book's just writing on shoes.
Oh, so it's a totally different assignment.
Totally different assignment. We talked about it.
Yeah, I have,
That's okay. We talked about it. So if you go back, also, by the way, just so you all know, if you go to johnlemon.info, that's where you're going to get our videos, johnlemon.info. But if you also come here and you go, I've been trying to keep up with this, I put the class videos. So where I talked about it, was it last week I talked about it pretty thoroughly?
Both the first class and last.
Okay, so if you go to these videos, you can kind of scrub through to hear me talking about the publication if you forget.
If you go to the GDP 113 site, I have individual topics broken out, and you can click on them.
For the type publication, did you name it
So you
that?
like went through and
No, for whatever that day was.
Oh, for
it, like,
whatever that
says
day
what
was.
it is.
Okay, all right. So if you go back to those,
I usually need to see it, or else, because I have auditory processing.
I totally get that.
Yeah, and
I am
it's also really hard
so,
for me to understand.
I am so with you.
Okay.
There is no problem with that. So
Yeah. So like, I get really confused with assignments if I don't see them.
that's no problem.
why.
No problem. No problem.
Okay.
Creating typographic design inspiration. No, that's not it. I think it came down lower. Seeing the world through typographic eyes. So that's this link. So remember, we talked about some guy who probably walked into buildings because he found type out of buildings.
Yeah.
Or who has the arrow tattoo in here? The arrow? Oh, so Cecilia, right? So Cecilia, you have type, you have an arrow and you have type. So maybe what Cecilia chooses to do is her book is all about tattoos that are made of typography.
And you just create a.
And you're creating a book. And this book is going to be printed on these sites, MagCloud or Blurb. And you're going to do it all semester long. We're going to keep walking into it, but you got to keep it going all semester long. And you'll create it in InDesign. We'll go through it. Start with your concept. If you go through this link called typographic, right, seeing the world through typographic eyes, go to the link and read it through and it'll become more familiar to you. And click on the link, it'll be more familiar to you. And go to our videos, like I said, here, and you could re-listen to them, or John's 113 link, which is, where's your 113 link, John?
113. This is TAF.com.
Here.
Okay, and the pages aren't like, there's no guidelines to it, it's really based on you, but with your concept.
That's not it.
Okay, so it's not like specific how to do it, like, on each page, not specific how to do.
No, that's
Okay.
right. It's you. Yes. Okay. Any questions about what's expected for that?
So if we have two ideas, can we upload two different ones and you can tell us which one?
Sure. If you have more than one idea and you want to see what you think might fly best, sure. But try them. You know, it's kind of like Kyler had a concept, but until he went and did it, he didn't know if it was going to work, right? Really. And now you're thinking, do I really want to draw all those letters so intricately, or do I want to press sketch in Photoshop, right?
Yeah.
Is that fair to say? Right. So you're still probably going to sketch your concepts of how to build your type or whatever on your hikes and think it through. But try it. Try what sketch looks like in Photoshop compared to your line drawing, and you might say, oh, I'm not going to shortcut this. You might think that. Okay, anything else? Okay.
It's not the font you just did.
No.
Anything. And I can go over it with you if you're still confused. Okay? I will see you in a week with your 24-inch by 36-inch trimmed, beautifully tiled posters. Yes?
Does it have to be tiled?
No, if you want to pay to print it out, pay to print it out. No problem. Yeah, it probably is easier. It probably is easier.
Print it out.